Welcome to the Natural History Cupboard. Come on in.
And welcome back to the Natural History Cupboard podcast, the place where the weird and wonderful parts of the natural world come together. I'm your host, Gareth, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Aaron. Aaron, what have you been up to?
Not much this week, actually.
No.
No, bit disappointing on the wildlife front, especially as it's the weather's been a bit weird. Like 1 minute it's sunny, the next minute it's raining. One thing, natural history, natural world kind of thing that I was really trying to get into is we had a red alert for the Aurora Borealis.
Did we?
Yes, I have an app that tracks
Magnetic.
or geomagnetic or activity in the atmosphere, and we've had more amber alerts this year than I think we had. That might be just anecdotal because I've not tracked it, like I've not recorded it, but yeah, we had a red alert for it twice this last week, and both times it happened on days where it was sunny. But then as the evening crept in, so did the cloud and the rain. So that's been very frustrating. But other than that,
I mean, it's been a pretty good week. Well, I say pretty good week, but pretty bad week if you're talking about volcanic eruptions. You had Mount Etna going off last couple of days. So if you're doing geology, that might work. It's probably not as good if you're in the area.
Yeah.
Probably not as nice.
No.
But,
no.
And there was something like a 6.4 magnitude earthquake in Greece as well. So it's all happening in the Mediterranean.
Was it the last time I was in Greece? Yes, I think it was. It was the last time I was in Greece. I was there with my brother and some family, and I slept through an earthquake. And my brother was, I think my brother tried to wake me up, but he described it the next day as the room was like
swaying a bit.
Yeah. And I slept all the way through it. Apparently there was a wildfire as a result as well.
Oh my God.
That I
slept through a wildfire as well.
Yeah, I just sleep through natural disasters.
As you do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now what have I been doing? I've been to the beach.
Yeah.
I very rarely get to go to the beach, but I was down in Cornwall for the day, weirdly picking up my brother who lives in Scotland, who was down fixing a plane.
Oh, I thought he might have just
got very lost. Yeah. Now, considering he lives up in Scotland, he very rarely comes down this part of the world. So he was down in Newquay, and we went to go and give him a lift because they didn't give him a car. They flew him in, left him there, fixed the plane, then you can go to your hotel.
Oh yeah.
So he gets put up for the week in a hotel and everything.
Nice.
So we came down, and it was. Yeah, my thought was, well, we'll go down Newquay and hopefully we'll go down and see some choffs or something in the wild. They're a little bit further down and we didn't really have the time to go and do that. But I saw the choffs' original inspiration, the jackdaw. So there's plenty of those around.
Yeah,
but I did technically see a choff in that it was the Choff Bakery on the side of a van. So that counts.
Very cool.
But at the same day, Drew was sharing some of the upcoming artwork, and it was weird that he was putting up on that exact day on our little chat group the humpback whale, which is an upcoming episode. So spoiler there for you.
And it's a really good bit of artwork.
It's really nice. And literally on the same day on that beach, we were sort of building sandcastles. And I'm not building a sandcastle. I'm going to build a sand sculpture. And I had my fossil hunting stuff in the back of the car.
Oh, yeah.
I had a little spade and bucket for my son to build sandcastles with, and I'm like, no, let's do this properly. So I got out of the fossil hunting kit my little collapsible shovel, trenching tool, and a little pick as well for digging out fossils as well. So I'm there, my brother's there, and my son's there, and we're like, right, let's do this properly. So we're like digging proper trenches and everything, and it looked pretty good. Everyone's there with a little plastic spade, but we're sort of like, no, let's do this properly.
Professionals.
Yeah.
Professional sandcastle builders.
And then I ended up building a humpback statue of the sand. So
did you get a picture?
I think I did. Yeah. We'll put that here if it's there.
I thought you were going to say, because of where you were, I was thinking you're going to say you saw a humpback and you
Oh, I mean, that would have
not
been
told me till
nice.
this moment.
We were quite far from the water. The tide was
Right.
quite far out, but
Yeah.
yeah, that was nice. And then, in fact, you remember I was saying that I saw a hedgehog the other week whilst driving away from here.
Yeah.
4 of them last week as I was
Really?
driving back. It was like hedgehog out one after the other. The weather has been good enough for them of a night. Obviously, the youngsters are off trying to find new territory and everything.
Yeah.
The sad thing is, I've seen quite a few dead on the road within the last couple of weeks
Yeah,
or
the
so.
only
So
ones I've seen this year have been dead. I don't think I've seen a single living one this year.
I'll tell you what, drive between here and Barnstable at midnight, and you'll see everything along
Mm.
there. That road is nerve-wracking because the amount of wildlife that appears, but also brilliant as well. So, yeah, I mean that's deer, that's wallabies and hedgehogs. So
Yeah, I still haven't seen that wallaby. I do keep my
no,
eyes
I've
out.
never seen it since. So I think it was a fluke, if anything.
It's probably an escaped pet, wasn't it?
Yeah, but
They got it back.
no, that's about the extent of it. I think
Well,
more
that's still
gardening.
very good. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's move into our news, shall we?
Let's do it.
It's the news!
Right, we're into this week's news. I'm going to start things off with, in fact, mine have all come from the BBC again. They've done some interesting stories this week. Indian man arrested with 47 venomous vipers in a bag at Mumbai airport.
Of course.
As you do. This is the fact that authorities have stopped a man who was trying to smuggle in dozens of rare reptiles through Mumbai airport on Sunday. The official said the reptiles, including 47 venomous vipers, try and say that fast, were found concealed in the man's checked-in luggage. The reptiles have been seized under various wildlife protection laws in India, and the passenger has not been named, and he's in custody, and he's not commented on his arrest yet. I mean,
Has it been?
red-handed, basically, so snakes on a plane. But some of the species that were listed are quite interesting because they've included seized 3 spider-tailed horned vipers, 5 Asian leaf turtles, and 44 Indonesian pit vipers from the passenger. So,
Wow.
Yeah, sad, but I'm glad that they caught him.
My first article comes to us from The Print India. It was sent in to us by Dr. Abhijit Borkar, so thank you for that one. And the headline is Tiger Spotted in Dahod Sanctuary. Gujarat plays host to the holy trinity of big cats after years. The welcome arrival of a healthy tiger into the Dahod Sanctuary is being celebrated by conservationists thanks to commitments made by India to improve and increase the wildlife corridors that stitch their reserve together. India is well known as having the most tigers of any tiger range country.
Yeah.
However, they also what a lot of people don't realize is that they have more protected natural reserves than any other country in the tiger's range. So really good news that it's working. If the tiger decides to take up residence in the region, it will mark the first time since 1997 that Gujarat has hosted tigers, lions, and leopards at the same time.
Nice. So, bit of bad news. New powers to shoot ravens after livestock attacks. This is the news that on the Orkney Islands up in Scotland, they're being drawn into a battle with Scotland's National Heritage Agency following a spate of attacks on livestock. Farmers say that the birds have killed and injured lambs and sheep and calves. I mean, you've got to move on from the white-tailed seagulls somehow, and both the animals and those caring for them, and significant financial loss. In a meeting organised by the farmers in the island, basically they agreed that current controls are not proving effective deterrents, and it will be possible that they introduce a license scheme over the winter to basically cull corvids, which is
as
It's not
opposed
great.
to introducing measures that might scare the corvids
Don't
off.
be silly. Don't be silly.
Well, next up comes from fizz.org. And again, it's been sent in to us by one of our listeners. It's been sent in from Spencer Seams. So thank you, Spencer. And the headline is The Mysterious Giant Woolly Rat, largest rodent in Australia and Oceania, documented for the first time. Frantisek, oh, have we sent this in on purpose to catch me out? If I butcher this name, I apologize. Frantisek Vejmelka, a Czech doctoral candidate of the Biology Center of the Czech Academy of Sciences and the University of South Bohemia, has become the first person ever to record a Malamis istapantap, which is a large marine rodent, in the wild. Until his observations were recorded in video and photo evidence, only museum specimens were known.
Nice.
Which is really cool because this is images and footage of it in the wild.
Oh, that's cool. So some good news from the BBC. So cells from dead rhino could bring new life, and this is a really fascinating one.
Oh, cells! I thought you said sales.
No, cells.
Right.
So a 40-year-old southern white rhino that died at Whipsnade Zoo in October 2021 has basically had tissue samples collected from it by a Shropshire-based charity, Nature's Safe, which has created millions of new living cells from the sample. And it believes that this is the first time this has happened in the UK. Now, the charity itself is said to basically be the first stage in an innovative process that could allow scientists to develop new egg and sperm cells from rhino cells, basically, and help with the cloning of extinct. You know, if rhinos go extinct, basically, it will be the preserve of those cells to be able to hopefully clone them and bring them back. We're not talking the same dire wolf side of things, but more
not cloning and bringing them back. You're talking about
keeping a biological store of them
and creating sperm and eggs
from normal cells. And interestingly enough, I went to a conference last year where they were literally talking about this and trying to build up data banks of species from colleges, from zoos, any collection that had animals. They wanted dead animals that had obviously died, or if it was capable of being collected, tissue samples as well, to be able to catalog every single animal that they possibly could, to be able to create this sort of frozen zoo
like San Diego.
To be able to safeguard and hopefully be able to help bring back some animals if they do become extinct, because there is a surprising wealth of genetic information in these institutes.
It's probably too long to go into in the headlines, but this is something I've been interested in since I started my zoo career, and you'd be surprised how many people are close to the idea. Right. My final headline for this week, it comes again from fizz.org and again was sent in to us from Spencer Seams. So a double thank you. Native turtles return to Yosemite after removal of invasive bullfrogs. A new study published in the journal Biological Conservation details the increase in native northwestern pond turtles as the invasive American bullfrog was depopulated from the area. The study suggests that to save the terrapin species, bullfrog eradication may be necessary.
Interesting. So that's our headlines for this week. If you've got one, want to send it in to us, then feel free to do so in through the normal channels, whether it's through our Facebook page, YouTube comments, or just any other way that you want to get in contact with us. And then it may be picked up and become one of our main articles, or one of the or the main story, or the articles. So this week I've got some sad but kind of good in that it sort of looks back on the life of an amazing animal. This is also from the BBC as well, and this literally came out today. UK's oldest wild white-tailed sea eagle dies at the age of 32. And this is reported from the RSPB in Scotland. Basically, the eagle, a famous eagle, as she is in the sort of birding world, named Frieza, hatched in Mull in 1992, where she spent almost 3 decades raising chicks, becoming a regular on TV nature programs. So if you've watched Spring Watch or any sort of program about the eagles on Mull, you've probably seen this individual and didn't know it. So she was the daughter of Blondie, who successfully raised the first white-tailed eagle chick to fledge in Scotland following the reintroduction of the species in 1975. And Fraser paired up with her long-term mate, Skye, in 1997. And the pair raised their first chick the following year. So in total, the pair raised 25 chicks during the 28-year partnership. So in May 2005, they made their TV debut on the first ever episode of Spring Watch. I can't believe that was 2005.
Yeah.
I thought that was longer than that. But yeah, alongside their chicks, Itchy and Scratchy, named by the pupils of Dervenig Primary School in Mull. So there you go. It's a boat face, but better, I think. Over the next 2 decades, they made many more appearances on the program, as well as Autumn Watch, which is the autumn version of Spring Watch. Basically, we're on Blue Peter, Eagle Island with Gordon Buchanan, and Countryfile, but they're probably featured in less of a positive light.
Yes.
But Fraser's death was announced on the last episode of Spring Watch on Monday. So sadly, like I say, this is an eagle that had basically lived a very long, full life and made a big impact on, well, the ornithological world in Britain. And one of those pioneering birds that has helped to bring those animals back to the UK, populating it with at least 25 other
That's incredible,
chicks.
isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a pretty good, I think that's a pretty good way of furthering your species is being
that's
responsible
legacy,
for
isn't it?
Yeah.
32 years as well.
Yeah. I mean, that's
32 years avoiding farmers. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Good honour. Well done.
True. But yeah, there you go. That is the sad but sort of dignified tale of an eagle who sadly passed.
Did they say what they're gonna what they've done with her?
I think they'll probably just sort of either keep it sort of secret or whatever, or have it
The reason I
disposed of for like CITES reasons.
The reason I ask is because this story reminds me very much of Markley, the Tiger Queen.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember
Yeah,
her?
yeah.
She lived an extremely long life. She pushed her legacy was in India to increase the number of tigers. I can't remember the amount of.
I don't think she's going to get the
cubs
same
she
amount
had.
of reverence, but
I would hope so, though. I know I'm more of a tiger person.
No.
But when these individuals that are rare, that are under threat, that have a bad reputation, when these individuals really represent their species well, and their legacy is to further the line in their home, it just Markley, for those of you who don't know, was given a very beautiful traditional funeral by the community where she passed. But I believe I can't remember how many cubs she had, but
it was something ridiculously large.
By the end of her life, she passed the last litter of cubs on to the father, who then raised them. She had lost her teeth. She couldn't eat anymore.
Oh, that's pretty much a death sentence for a tiger.
Yeah. But what a wonderful story. I know you say it's sad, but what a wonderful life and legacy. That's pretty cool, I think.
For an amazing species of bird as well. But yeah, well, should we head into this week's creature feature to talk about another amazing bird?
Yeah, let's do it.
It's the creature feature.
Right, well, we're into this week's creature feature. Aaron, what are we looking at?
Well, let's enter the world of the third largest woodpecker that we've ever seen. At least as far as science knows. The repetitive beeping you can hear amongst other birdsong is an ivory-billed woodpecker. This is a world of old-growth forests spread across the southeastern United States and Cuba. The scene is one of serene beauty. A thick layer of leaf litter cushions our footsteps as we walk amongst a diverse array of natural debris. Scattered about, as if by strong winds or the passage of time, logs rot on the floor, providing shelter to nature's cleanup crews. The multi-layered canopy consists of trees young and old and of differing species, but standing with the most commanding presence, the impressive ancient hardwood trees for which such forests are known peer down upon us like the Ents of Fangorn. Humans historically don't penetrate deep enough into these forests to cause much problem, but times are changing. We navigate around the swamplands that have given our quarry a rather murky image in modern bird watchers' minds. But rather than being a creature of the swamp itself, this woodpecker is a creature of light. It likes to be in the sunlight and spends most of its time in the upper canopy of this region. As such, it relies on these unbroken swaths of trees and forests to maintain an unfragmented and constant population. This would have provided the woodpecker with the ample resources it appears to have required, particularly with regard to food and territory. A diurnal bird, the ivory-billed woodpecker would rise at dawn, spending much of its morning and evening foraging and hunting, resting at midday, and retiring entirely to the security of their individual roosts for the night. Stomach contents show that much of their diet would have consisted of beetle larvae, with a preference for the larvae of Cerambicinae and Scoletidae families. And this larvae hunting would be achieved by a process which causes a sound that will be very familiar to all of us, hopefully, if you have local woodpeckers.
I was going to say, there's not woodpeckers everywhere.
But, no, if you have woodpeckers in your region, for those of us in Britain, greater and lesser spotted woodpeckers and the green woodpecker would be using the very same method, which is achieved by hammering the dead wood with its powerful bill. And as bits kind of come loose, they would be peeled off of the trunk by wedging and prying actions of the beak. No other species within the ivory-billed woodpecker's range could have achieved this method of hunting on this specific type of wood. They went entirely without competition for wood-boring grub snacks. The rest of their diet, again, according to stomach content, suggests that they were often consuming acorns, hackberries, hickory nuts, magnolia fruit, southern magnolia fruit, pecans, persimmons, and poison ivy seeds. So they had a very varied omnivorous diet, really. But as I said, times are changing. I didn't tell you from the outset, but the reason that we've dusted off the cupboard's old, almost forgotten, and borderline abandoned time machine was to bring us to this very moment in time, because the ivory-billed woodpecker today is not something you're going to see. In what we now call the United States of America, a civil war has raged. After the Americans had finished killing each other in their droves, they took to killing trees in their droves. From the end of the Civil War, the timber industry decimated the southeastern United States of these primary forests, fragmenting ivory-billed woodpeckers' territories to horrendous effect. Between the significant habitat destruction that occurred from around the 1870s and all the way up to the 1930s and beyond, as well as the history of rampant hunting of the species, is there really any hope for this wonderful bird? By the time we arrive here in the spring of 1938, the fragmented forests of a few decades prior, though not of the quality of the now lost old-growth forest, seems almost like a silver age. They haven't been able to maintain the unbroken expanses of forest, but at least there was something there. There's barely now a tree to perch onto, and sightings of ivory-billed woodpecker are more important than ever. So let's ensure that you can identify them whilst we're out here in this space and time. It's a big woodpecker, I should say, and as I said, it's actually the third largest on Earth. I don't know about other planets. I don't know why
Giants
I
on
thought wording
Mars.
it like that. Yeah, giants on Mars. The body is 1 foot 67 inches. So that's 51 centimeters for those of us not in the US, where this bird comes from, with a wingspan of 2 foot 49 inches or 76 centimeters. Weight estimates put the bird in the 450 to 570 gram range, and no other woodpeckers in their range approach this size. They are big and uniquely big. The woodpecker is mostly black with an iridescent sheen to its feathers, somewhere between blue and purple. Think kind of like raven type
Yeah.
iridescence, magpie iridescence on the black feathers. That is.
My head went to Microraptor, but
Yeah,
Raven works just as
microraptor.
well.
Yeah. Exactly. The head displays a large crest and the striking creamy ivory colored bill, which gives the name its species, is also present there. The crest itself displays sexual dimorphism. In males, they show a little bit of red on their crest, whilst females are uniform black. The bill, on the other hand, is also an identifying feature, as the species has a somewhat flattened kind of end to the bill amongst the woodpecker family. From the cheeks, kind of just under the eyes here, stretching backwards down the neck and then joining on the back, exists a white flash-like line. And it's not the only white on them, actually. As you can see from Drew's wonderful artwork, the outer secondary feathers and the ends of the inner primary feathers are also white. The trailing edge of the upper and underwings are also white as well as a result of this. And also the underwing displays white along the forward edge. Some of this you'd only see with the bird in flight, but they are quite distinctive, despite looking quite similar to things like, is it the pileated woodpecker and possibly the Mexican woodpecker. I mean, you'd have to fact check me on that one.
Yeah.
In the time I've described this species, did any of you at home notice that you can no longer hear the ivory-billed woodpecker? The tooting beeps of the ivory-billed woodpecker that you did hear earlier on in this feature were recorded by a Cornell professor. Cornell being the same institute that makes the Merlin bird.
I mean, they are the Cornell Institute of Ornithology as well. So huge amount of stuff done there by them.
So this professor was named Arthur A. Allen, and he recorded this for the Macaulay Library. The calls were heard in Louisiana on April 9th in 1935. They were made by a female, probably calling for a mate or company, or calling out her territory. But after the logging company, which owned Louisiana's Singer Tract, refused to sell the land to various conservation groups who were trying to protect the ivory-billed woodpecker, including the Audubon one, yeah. Her territory was reduced to the dirt. Not a single tree was left unlogged. After clinging on for a few years more, she was last seen in 1944, and she was the last of her kind.
An email.
Right, well, we're into our emails for this week, and we're going to start things off with last week's question, which was, what is your favorite dinosaur or prehistoric creature documentary? There's some interesting ones for this one. Jen Babb starts us off. What was the one where Sir David went and knocked on someone's door? I think it was the Mammoth Graveyard. It was, and weirdly, I was watching that one the other week. Attenborough and the Sea Monster is also excellent, and all the work that they put into it. That's a stunning specimen that's at the Etches collection. I'll be honest, I didn't love Walking with Dinosaurs on Sunday. Good. Other people are agreeing. I was turned off by the episode name, The Orphan. I did enjoy the excavation stuff, though. I'll have a think. So,
does Jen have something against orphans?
Maybe she does. I don't know. You do you.
Don't watch Batman.
Fair enough.
The next comment comes from Christopher Ackerson, who says, "That's hard. I guess I'd choose Chased by Sea Monsters."
Oh, that was brilliant. That was the
I don't know if
Nigel
I've-
Marvin spin-off one where it's him going through the deadliest seas of history. It's him on a time-traveling yacht.
Okay, I've got some YouTubing to do then.
It's a brilliant. You never seen that one?
No.
Oh,
And it's about the sea, so I
brilliant.
should probably have seen it.
Yeah, it's got
But
Dunkleosteus, Megalodon, Tanastropheus, giant Ordovician, orthocones. Yeah, all the basically big aquatic creatures from prehistory, and Basilosaurus as well.
oh yeah. Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
See, I'll have to.
So another
YouTube
Walking with
this.
Dinosaurs one, original Walking with Dinosaurs, not new recipe. So my other half has put the Natural History Cupboard. I think she might be biased, but I
think
agree
she
with her.
Might be sucking up.
Of which Jen Babs has said, obviously.
Uh, Kelsey Watts has commented Jurassic Park, and he's got a little bit of interaction there because Jen has replied to him saying, "I was going to say that." Guys, it doesn't matter. I don't need to say. Kelsey Watts has actually followed up and said, "In seriousness, I don't know if you'd call it a documentary, but I watch Andy's Prehistoric Adventures on
I
BBC.
love Andy's Prehistoric Adventures.
I played with my son River. He loves it. And to be honest, I too enjoy it. It covers both animals and plants.
Yeah, I've only met him the once by sheer chance.
Yeah, you met him on the beach.
Fossil hunting.
He asked
yeah,
you for advice.
basically,
Yeah.
yeah. Which I love that fact.
That's your claim to fame.
Yeah. And that was. I'd like to point out that was at a point where I had no idea who he was. I was not a father. It was when with a good friend of the podcast, Stuart Beard, who is a fossil hunter, and I've gone for many years fossil hunting with him, and he had a kid years before I, and we were on the beach, and he just turns around to me and goes, Gareth, it's Andy from Andy's Dinosaurs. I'm like, what? Who? What? Okay.
So you helped him, and then Stuart filled you in on who it was.
No, because he's like, that's Andy. I'm like, okay. Not a clue who he is. And then he sort of wanders over and goes, oh, what are you guys doing? We're like, oh, we're fossil hunting. I think at that point I've got like a decent sized ammonite under my arm, and we were looking at a block that had a bit of ichthyosaur jaw in it.
Oh, nice.
And I was like, oh, this is interesting. It's the first time I've ever been down here. I've never been fossil hunting. I was like, oh, well, have an ammonite. And I just handed him this ammonite. So hopefully he's still got an ammonite.
I didn't know that fact. So if I do decide to email him, I'll say he owes us because our host gave you an ammonite.
Randomly on the beach at Lyme Regis. So, yeah. So
it was his first time in Lyme Regis, he says.
First time fossil hunting at Lyme Regis.
This is all getting stored up here. This is leverage.
Of course. I've even got a photo as well, which I'll try and find. I look ridiculous. He is ridiculously tall.
Yeah?
Like really tall. And Stuart's like, oh, get a photo with him. Like, okay. Sort of, photo. It wasn't until obviously a little bit later I realised who he was. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool, actually. That's pretty cool. So, yeah, anyway, completely off topic there. But yes, that does definitely count.
I've not actually watched Andy's Dinosaurs yet, but we won't tell him that when I contact him because I want leverage.
Just going to say.
So, next comment. Oh, it's your turn.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Sorry.
That's okay. Jan Ashbridge has said Dinosaurs, the final days with Attenborough. Yeah. Brilliant one. I love that one about Tanis. Yeah.
Yeah. Mark Palmer says Walking with Dinosaurs, 90s one. I like how you had to we're
gonna have to start distinguishing our original recipe. So Jen Babs, Terrible Lizards is really good. Would love to see it become as visual as the Natural History Cupboard. But any opportunity to see David Hone's Dinosaurs and Other Fossils is worth it. Dave is so enthusiastic. Now
he is.
I think it's a little cheeky because Terrible Lizards, the podcast, actually went, oh, Jen Babs, you can see him on his videos on our Patreon. Well, that's lovely, Terrible Lizards. But don't go poaching now. You've got more people than us already. So, but I do enjoy listening to that podcast.
Yeah. I one of my favorite ones, and I'm a little bit biased because I like Tyrannosaurids, but they had Dave Hone was discussing with, and I feel awful that I can't remember this other guy's name, but
Mhm.
it was about they were discussing Tyrannosaurs. Izzy felt like she was kind of hosting this conversation between two Tyrannosaur nerds, but they both. I think it's a really good example of how discussions should take place in the modern day because David didn't agree on the locomotion of tyrannosaurs
Yeah.
with this guy, and it was brilliant because they're both saying that's interesting, but I think this, and that, oh, that's interesting, and it was really like healthy. Whereas in today's world, you
Nah,
can't.
shut up.
If
Nah,
you
shut
like
up.
the sequels of Star Wars, you are wrong, and if you like the original trilogy, you're well. I mean, if you like the original trilogy, you're right, really, deep down. But let's pretend that we can have a healthy conversation about it. You know?
Yes, I get where you're going with that. Yeah. So that was last week's question. So this week we're going to sort of tie into the ivory-billed woodpecker, which is what recently extinct animal do you think are still out there? Because there is, to a certain extent, some people who still believe that the ivory-billed woodpecker is alive. A little bit
There
like the
is.
thylacine in that sort of sense, but let's face it, there's probably no hope, I'm guessing.
See, with the differences, there's
Hmm.
see on in defense of the thylacine spotters, I don't believe that the thylacine is still out there, by the way.
No.
But in defense of the thylacine spotters, there are fewer things in that region of the world that look quite like the thylacine. Whereas in southeastern United States, I don't know about Cuba, but in the southeastern United States at least, there are other woodpeckers, and some of them across the United States. Because the other thing to remember, which I didn't go into in the creature feature, was we know their historic range is Cuba and the southeastern United States,
Yeah.
but we found their bones and stuff further afield, and it's probably because Native Americans that were taking feathers and skulls as adornments and such were spreading those body parts about, which confuses things.
Just scattering them across.
Well, they're adorned in headdresses or and stuff, and then they drop or whatever. But the thing is that we know their historic range. If you look in that range and maybe just a little bit out of it, there are other woodpeckers that look kind of similar. I think he can correct me if I'm wrong, but I seem to remember a conversation with Drew where we were talking about woody woodpecker, who I think is supposed to be a pileated woodpecker, and we were saying that they were quite similar, if I remember right. But yeah, so maybe there is. I'm not. There isn't thylacine out there.
No.
But if someone says they've seen a thylacine, maybe that's something that could be at least looked into. Whereas with the woodpecker, there's so many animals around that look similar that it could more easily. That's what I'm trying to say. With the woodpecker, it's more easy that it's a case of mistaken identity. There's been several sightings since the 1940s when that last female died, 1944. But she was the last positively ID'd individual, and it's likely that the others weren't the ivory-billed woodpeckers.
Yeah. So what would be the one that you think is what would be your species that, if anything, you'd like to see be rediscovered, I suppose? You know, what do you think might be still out there? Knowing full well that it's probably not.
I'll let you answer.
Okay, so if for my thought, I would say the paradise parrot. It's a small grass parrot from Australia. That the last one was seen in like the 20s or something. They lived in the outback, and they lived in termite mounds is where they prefer to nest. But they're one of these birds that has been basically wiped out by predators, like introduced cats, rats, dogs, foxes, you name it. But there is perpetual like sightings of people saying they've seen them and things like that. They're a really pretty parrot that had like blue and sort of a light pinky red to them as well. So yeah, but that would be the one I'd like to see sort of reappear, as it were, and you know, if they were still out there. The likelihood is like the ivory-billed woodpecker. Unfortunately, they're probably not there. So.
Yeah.
What about you?
So the one I'm thinking of is I'm pretty sure I read a news article somewhere that suggested it's either a news article. Yeah, I think it was a news article that suggested that leopards from the Caucasus Mountains
Right.
were starting to come back into the region,
Nice.
and that they were predicting that they would enter Europe if they did try and recolonize Europe. They would come through Georgia, and so
You want to see Georgian leopards?
I would like to. It would be nice if Europe had leopards again.
I think I think we have a lot of issues with people liking links at the moment.
Yeah, but that's neither here nor there. You didn't tell me about it had to be realistic. That's what I would like to. Ideal world, I would love to see
I mean,
leopards back.
do you think they are out there, or there's
I
Georgian
think there's
leopards?
I think there's a chance they were saying specifically that this, for whatever reason, this population, you know how the ones south of the Thailand-Malaysia border, they're all melanistic.
Yeah.
This one, this population, for some reason, most or many of them display a color morph that's called the strawberry leopard. It's kind of like a paler, more
Yeah, I know
pinky,
which one you mean,
reddish
yeah.
thing. It's not albinism or
No,
anything
no,
like
no.
that. But I feel like they might be in that stage that's a little bit earlier than the grey wolves were when I was living in Barcelona, where the grey wolves were just starting to. There was a scout coming in every now and then. A
Yeah.
scout would enter like the Catalan region. I reckon that every now and then, very very like rarely, one is on the lookout for territory and might enter Georgia and come back out again. I think they're on the cusp if what I read was to be believed. I'd hope so. That's
Yeah.
why, and that's why I hope.
No, that's good. Well, let us know what you think by putting that on either our Facebook page or on the YouTube, the YouTube comments. That is what we're going to do. So, moving swiftly on now, we will go to our YouTube comments.
So, first YouTube comment comes to us from Rosalie9961, who says, for this week's episode of Favorite Prehistoric Creature documentary, I was originally going to preface my answer with, sorry for giving the obvious and cliche answer, but with Aaron setting a precedent, I don't feel so bad. You have to go with Prehistoric Planet. In my
Nothing
opinion,
wrong?
it's no, nothing wrong with that. In my opinion, it's the most stunning to look at among many other things it does so well.
Yep.
It feels like you could go out in the world and find the creatures shown off. Though sadly you can't. I do want to give a shout out to Walking with Beasts. It's my favorite of the Walking with Life trilogy, and I'm even writing extra fan episodes / seasons, which would hopefully be better than the Walking with Dinosaurs reboot. Which, while I'm talking about it, I hate to be a Debbie Downer about it, especially because it hasn't even come out in the US. I sadly predicted in my small paleo friend group that it wasn't going to be stellar when it was first announced. It had to compete for visuals with Prehistoric Planet and live up to the legacy of the original series.
Exactly what I said.
As much as it didn't do an out of the ballpark type of performance, it is always wonderful to have more paleo media. Also, silly side silly thing that I love to bring up with the original Walking with Dinosaurs and tying into this episode's start of Iguanodon. Why did they have Utahraptor hunt Iguanodon in Europe? I always felt like they should have switched that scene with the herd walking on the beach one.
Yeah, I do. I got to admit, I do agree with that because you got that scene, and I think they wanted to include a raptor, but they were doing Iguanodon in Europe at that point. But there isn't at that point there was no European raptor, and even to this day, I think the European raptor that we have, or the British raptor that we have, is not. I still don't think it's its own species yet. I think it's still debated. I'm not sure, but we certainly didn't have Utahraptor, clues in the name. So yeah, and also they look very dated now. Those Utahraptors being featherless and skin tight things. But yeah, no, very good comment that one. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I'd say I agree with Prehistoric Planet. I know it's probably cliche because of maybe there's a bit of recency bias for most people, but
No, I think it's the best.
I think it is the best.
It's the best documentary series about dinosaurs I think we've had for a long while.
Kelsey Watch Music is the next one to write in, and his comment says, I had a bay tree for 27 years. I'm now 35 years old. Unfortunately, it got replanted in the pig pen and they tore it apart. I'm not ashamed to say I cried for days after that. It was given to me at birth and it truly felt part of me, but also felt like a family member. In memoriam of it, I got a tattoo on my back. Rest in peace to my bay tree.
Oh,
Yeah, I remember that bay tree. And that's all of our YouTube comments.
there you go. So one other way that you can get in contact with us, other than through our Facebook or our YouTube, is by sending us an email at thenathistorykcupboard@gmail.com, where we'll hopefully get back in contact with you and be able to read that out now. So what do we got?
So first one comes in to us from one of our fantastic Patreon supporters, Jen Greenhall, who says, hello, lovelies. So I was just scrolling away on Facebook, like you do, and up pops a group/pay suggestion, Nudabrank Central. I joined immediately. What's the weirdest natural history group you are in? Keep up the good work. And she sent an image of Nudabranks. Well, as I said to you in my reply, for me now it's Nudabrank Central.
Copycat. Although I will probably go and join that one.
Or maybe one of the speculative evolution ones. They're weird.
Yeah, like I think one of them's like Triassic coprolite posting.
Yeah.
Which is always, it's people just making funny memes using dinosaur and paleo nerd related content.
Yeah, now you say that. There's a few natural history meme groups.
Yeah. And I think that's brilliant because it's combining humor and natural history. So I can't think. I think that's probably, I wouldn't say it's the weirdest one, but yeah.
Next one comes to us from Matthew Geddy. Matthew Geddy. Hi, Aaron. Thanks so much for your reply, and thank you to answering my questions on the show. This is going back to his primate question the other day. I was curious about primates because I'm hoping to transition my career towards biological and evolutionary anthropology.
Nice.
And a lot of these scientists work with primates. I would love to as well because I do have a fondness for them. Well, sorry for our reaction to your question there, Matthew. Great apes are out of the question in science unless it's purely conservation and for good reason. But there are some fascinating discoveries being made by researchers working with other species, all purely ethical, of course. It's a relief to hear that it's the human primates that are the issue. Most definitely.
Almost certainly.
I feel I actually, I'm going to finish this email first. Sorry.
Yeah.
I feel like I know how to navigate that. We all feel like you know how to navigate that until you have to navigate it. Thanks too for the advice on bird feeders. I don't feel so guilty now about feeding those parrots out of my hand. Once I've sorted through all the photos, I'll flick a few over. That would be great, thank you. And yeah, you don't need to feel too guilty about that. That's perfectly fine, as we explained. The bit that I was going to jump on was actually that I quite like seeing and hearing and learning about primates. I just didn't like working with them. Yeah. And like you say, it's the human primates. Did you want to add anything to that?
No. I mean, if you're going to work with any species that's not a great ape, other than I'd say probably your best bet would be something like capuchins. Capuchins are awesome to work with.
Edinburgh Zoo, when I was working there was a fantastic kind of research facility with the brown cat capuchins and the squirrel monkeys. Brilliant setup, and it was actually a privilege to get to know the researchers there and what they were doing. It was really cool.
Yeah, fascinating animals.
So the last email for this week comes to us from Big Pumba, who says, hey guys, Big Pumba here. Sorry I've missed the last few. Life's been a bit tough lately and I've not been well, but the podcast helps. Last episode I listened to before this week's has the mention of family crests. Mine would have to be the humble house martin.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, me too. I love seeing them when they turn up, and I always feel sad when they leave.
Isn't that House Martell from Game of Thrones?
Oh yeah. They live in our street and I love them dearly. Now then, on to the main event, the heaped pile of bovine excrement. It's the new Walking with
I
Dinosaurs.
love how there isn't a single person who has disagreed with me.
No, I haven't read online anyone that's enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I watched one episode and slept through 5 episodes.
I actually slept through about half an hour of one of them as well. Yeah.
He continues, my bams, they were boozled. My flabs, gasted. My ass, well, that was truly tarnished. But when in the first 5 minutes I was whipped from a poorly animated baby triceratops to the constant awkward paleontologist, I don't know about anyone else, but the Walking With series, apart from Sea Monsters, Nigel Martin is Dino Genius. But Walking With Dinosaurs is about the stories. Yes, they need the science, but as a child, I was drawn in by the tales of these huge ancient creatures, not a snippet back and forth between the horrors of today and the beauty of the paleo world. I've said my piece. My favourite paleo media would have been the Ballad of Big Al. My girl Al, yes, she's a lady. According to recent science, she is the OG. And the reason why Allosaurus remains my favourite dinosaur. And yes, I would ride one into battle. The new series doesn't even have footprints. Heinous.
Yep.
Have a great week, one and all. Kind regards, Big Pumba. I've already answered one bit, but just to reiterate, I hope you get well soon. Obviously, you are an important part of our community, the cupboard dwelling community.
I think that summed up that series really quite well.
I'm just gonna not watch it.
I think you should watch it just so that you can see what it's about. If anything,
but to watch
actually,
it,
no, you need to go and watch Nigel Marvin's Sea Creatures. The Sea Monsters one. I can't believe you haven't seen that.
I will have to go and watch that. I'll find that.
I'm sure it'll be around somewhere.
A friend or YouTube.
Yeah. But
that's just the end of our emails.
Wonderful. Well, another way that you can get in contact with us is by becoming one of our fantastic Patreons, which we'll tell you about now.
Every week, we like to give a little love back by shouting out the names of our wonderful Patreon supporters.
That's right. These are the cupboard dwellers who are kind enough to support us through a monetary contribution, for which we are eternally grateful and grateful beyond words.
And those people are, of course, Fogtober, Jen Greenhall, Connie P, Chelsea McKee, Nick to Nick,
Owen Cox,
and Matt Geddy.
Guys, your financial contributions are actively helping us out here in the Natural History Cupboard in a myriad of ways, including developing our new studio, planning excursions and being able to go out and film on location, considering technical upgrades and actually making the jump from a solely audio-based podcast to the now growing YouTube channel. And we really can't thank you enough for that.
Now, we appreciate all of our cupboard dwellers and the support you offer us through listening, liking, sharing, and subscribing. But if you feel we've earned it and you're considering joining our Patreon, there are 2 options through which you can do so.
That's the Nature Nerds and the Animal Ambassador tiers, which you can find on the Patreon website or links through our social media as well. And each one having different benefits for you to enjoy.
And now back to Gareth and Erin in the studio.
So a massive thank you to our Patreons there. You guys help us out to be able to do some of the different things, to be able to put them out there for you guys to see. But that pretty much brings us to the end of this week's episode. So a massive thank you, Erin. That was really interesting about the ivory-billed woodpecker there.
Yeah, short and sweet, but a really cool animal, yeah.
Well, short and sad, I suppose.
Yeah, it was sad. Yeah, that's true.
And a massive thank you to you at home. And we'll see you next time here in the Natural History Cupboard. Bye.
Bye. Gareth, before you go, I have the bad joke for the week.
Oh,
ready?
Yeah.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Woodpecker.
Woodpecker who?
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Woodpecker.
Woodpecker who?
Knock, knock.
Knock, knock. Oh, no, wait. Sorry, I forgot how knock, knock jokes work. Who's there?
Woodpecker.
Woodpecker who?
Knock, knock.
Oh, my God, shut up. Is there an end to this joke?
No. I was just seeing how long I could get you going.